Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of the Grain Place Foundation seminar series. My name is Isaac Johnson, and this seminar series is my internship project here at the Grain Place. And over the next few months, I will be going on a journey critically examining the state of organic agriculture today, as well as the future landscape, and asking the overarching question of why organic. Before I do any of that, though, I should take some time to introduce myself, tell you who I am and why I'm here. And to best do that, we should start at Kenyon College. So, Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, is where I earned my undergraduate degree, majoring in biology and with a concentration in environmental science. I was also able to do things such as get involved in laboratory work, as you can see on the left. I was also able to participate in field ecology research in Montana, as you can see in the middle, and I was also a varsity athlete. Um, Through a combination of all of these interests, I really became fascinated with agriculture in the latter part of my college journey. Taking the interest I had in food and nutrition from being an athlete and combining that with the biology and ecology coursework I was interested in, agriculture seamlessly blended the two, and ever since then, it has been the focus of my professional journey. As such, following my graduation from Kenyon, I accepted a position at the Rodale Institute in Easton, Pennsylvania, working on their Rodale Institute St. Luke's organic farm. So this is a quite unique farm. It's located on a hospital campus, and the farm is roughly 25 acres that services the entire St. Luke's hospital network in Pennsylvania. So this includes providing CSA boxes to hospital employees, providing food for hospital cafeterias, as well as prescription veg boxes for patients. Um, Given my interest in food and nutrition, as well as ecology and landscape dynamics, seeing the blend of organic and nutrition on this personal level was a fascinating experience and a great next step that really exemplified the connection between environmental and human health through food. After completing my internship at the Rodale Institute, I spent 5 weeks at the Grain Place in January and February of 2024. Here, my primary responsibilities were animal husbandry, as well as learning about machine operation, and additionally learning about how Grain Place Foods, the Grain Place Foundation, as well as the Grain Place Farm are all collaboratively involved in their pursuit of furthering organic agriculture. In addition to just general farm work during this time, I was able to undertake the creation of an intern blog, which is still on the website, which just detailed my experiences as an intern. And I was really able to kind of carve my own way and create an internship that worked for me. Now, upon completing that position, I moved to Somerville, Massachusetts, where I'm currently located, to accept a position at a company called Green City Growers. Green City Growers is an urban farming company that primarily specializes in education and outreach around agriculture and environmental health. And my primary site at Green City Growers was located in the middle. It was about a quarter acre on a Fidelity Investments campus. So here on this plot, I was responsible for growing everything from seed to harvest and then coordinating with chefs and delivering them produce to feature in the cafeteria's menu. Additionally, I provided educational programming for Fidelity employees and various different events with sampling dishes from the farm, as you can see on the left. At the end of my position at Green City Growers, I began the pursuit of a Master's of Science degree through the University of Missouri through their Center for Agroforestry. As I mentioned before, my introduction to agriculture was through a biological, ecological lens, and so the incorporation of perennial aspects into agricultural land made a lot of sense to me. And since beginning this program, I've become even more fascinated with agroforestry and its potential to regenerate agricultural lands. So you can see on the left two projects undertaken by the Center for Agroforestry in Missouri. On the top, an alley cropping program and a riparian buffer on the bottom. While working on my master's degree at the University of Missouri online, I began looking for outside internship opportunities. In this search, I got back in touch with the Grain Place Foundation, and the idea for this seminar series was created as an internship opportunity. This is made possible by the Transition to Organic Partnership Program, TOP, in which the Grain Place is involved in the Plains region. If you have any questions about what TOP is, there's lots of information on the Grain Place Foundation website as well as the TOP website as well. So for this seminar series, the schedule is as follows, with this first introductory presentation coming out March 31st, which simply just introduces what the series is, who I am, and where we're going to be going from here. Now for the second presentation, this will be another recorded presentation available on April 21st. And this will really dive into the idea of why organic and taking a critical look at organic production, especially pointing out environmental and social benefits of organic, as well as incorporating the One Health concept. Now, that said, this internship opportunity could go one of two different ways. Pathway number one is a continuation of the current format wherein I continue to produce these recorded presentations detailing my search through the literature surrounding organic agriculture, and I critically examine this and produce these recorded presentations for people to view at their own convenience. A second pathway, though, is through the incorporation of live discussion sessions. There would still be recorded presentations providing context and laying the groundwork for these discussion sessions, but these live sessions would allow an opportunity for individuals to come and post questions or help me learn along this journey. And truly, it could go either way. However, I do need feedback on which way it should go. So at this point, I have a QR code here, and the link will also be posted in the description on YouTube. And I would love if I could get feedback from anyone watching who might have an interest in coming to these live discussion sessions or who really wants it to continue as a recorded presentation. Either way, there's a link here to a questionnaire that will ask you about that and then possible scheduling opportunities for discussion sessions. All right, now that we have covered the introductory bit of this seminar series as well as some of the logistics, let's begin to dig into why organic, the big overarching question of this entire seminar series. To do so, I think it's useful to look at this paper from Reganold and Wachter in 2016. This is a review paper entitled Organic Agriculture in the 21st Century, and it just broadly provides a framework of the current state of organic. Although I should mention 2016, this is almost 10 years ago now, and so some of the data is slightly outdated or has had new research come out, and that's something we will certainly dive into in the coming sessions. However, for this first introductory session, I think this paper provides a very broad framework to begin to look at why organic. Specifically, the idea presented in this paper of a sustainability comparison between conventional and organic. As you can see here, it breaks it down into four different categories, which are environmental impact, social well-being, production, and economic feasibility. So you can see those four different categories are these four different colors in this sustainability comparison graphic. And I think this does a really good job of just visually depicting the differences between these two systems. And although it's not perfectly accurate in terms of what it's doing, I think it's just a good visual description. Now, for the remainder of this presentation, I want to take a look at what Reginald and Wachter found in their review of this sustainability comparison, looking at organic versus conventional. And to do that, I think we should start with environmental impact. They state in their review that compared to conventional production, in general, on average, organic farming systems have higher soil organic carbon, better soil quality, less soil erosion, higher flora and faunal diversity, more landscape diversity, and more functional groups. So clearly, some of these benefits, things like soil organic carbon, are very important for agricultural production. Organic carbon can influence things such as water holding capacity of soil, as well as microbial life. Additionally, soil erosion and soil quality are huge concerns for agricultural producers. So seeing that organic systems consistently have less erosion and better soil quality, as per this review, definitely benefits, as well as, just the general biodiversity metrics that they also mention are great for conservation and just the overall environmental impact of agriculture, as agricultural lands take up a lot of the natural landscape. Seeing this greater uh, support of biodiversity and organic farming systems is definitely a plus for organic. Next, to move on to the idea of social well-being, Reginald and Wachter found several different ways in which organic could contribute to increased social well-being, namely reduced worker exposure to chemicals. Additionally, they mention how organic systems often have increased diversification in terms of their production. Um, However, they do mention that more research should be conducted to fully get a sense of the quality of life effects of organic production. Next, looking at economic feasibility, Reginald and Wachter state that on average, organic is more profitable. This is largely due to the premium prices that organic can fetch at the market, as well as a trend of increasing demand for organic production. This trend has continued all the way until today. In addition to these, though, the lower input costs of organic over time, all of these things contribute to, on average, organic being significantly more profitable. And lastly, looking at production, on average, they found yield is 8 to 25% lower in organic systems in this review. Now, this was in 2016, and from the research I have seen coming out more recently, meta-analyses have found that a similar 8 to 25% decrease in production can still be expected in organic systems. So this, for the most part, holds true today. However, that is not the end of the story. This quote from that paper, I think, does a good job of summing up that production is not the end all be all of agriculture and food. Um, so they state, we already produce adequate kilocalories of food to more than feed the world, but do not provide adequate access to all individuals. Globally, 1.9 billion adults are overweight, and of these, 600 million are obese, while 793 million people are undernourished, and more than 28% of children under the age of 5 are stunted due to malnourishment. So I think this quote really sums it up. You often hear the argument, how are we going to feed the world? As they state here, we're producing enough food to more than feed the world. It's more issue of distribution and access to food. So we will look more at this in future sessions, looking at concepts such as food waste and food loss, as well as food and nutritional access. But I thought this was an important caveat that they do mention in this paper for the production comparison. Now, I just want to return for a second to this sustainability comparison again. Now that we have run through and looked at these four different sectors of this comparison, it becomes more clear what this graphic means, and you can see visually very clearly organic presents a more well-rounded approach to agriculture with significant benefits in things like social well-being and environmental benefits. Um, and I think this provides a good framework for us to continue this question of why organic and continue digging into the current research, as again, this paper is almost 10 years old now. However, a lot of these trends have held true, but there have been some new data that suggests nuance to these findings. Now, I want to wrap up this first presentation with this quote from Schoenbeck et al., this 2013 paper, in which they say, policymakers should be aware of a realistic and gradual transition from the other approaches to the organic that should be projected only in the long run and after conducting a series of risk assessment studies on the basis of both crop case and region case. Overall, I think anyone tuning into this presentation today in some way or another has a connection or an interest in organic agriculture and the benefits that it provides. However, I think it's vitally important for people in this space to realize the reality of agricultural production, and that change also does take time. That said, that's not to say we keep the status quo and don't focus on any change. However, the context of each individual producer's situation is important to consider, and looking at this as a long run transition process is the best way to go about this transition towards organic. It shouldn't be we have to do this right now, as that could be detrimental for many producers. However, I think this is just a really important idea to keep in mind as we move forward. Now, in terms of future outlook, as we just mentioned, this is a very complex issue, and using a blend of conventional and organic while transitioning towards organic is what is really needed for producers. This was the sentiment of Reginold and Wachter at the conclusion of their 2016 review, and is the sentiment of many other people in the field. While we are looking to transition towards organic due to the numerous benefits that have been stated in this presentation, and we will continue to look at understanding the realities of change, and that change is gradual, are very important as we move forward. So this concludes the first edition of the Grain Play seminar series. I look forward to continuing this journey and to getting feedback from you all on which direction it should take.